to Chandrasekhar, we've all met him, that what we need to do is we need to really understand what's happening in each person's world when we talk sustainability, because it's a very dynamic concept right now as it sits. Everybody is dealing with it, like just talking to Anjali before everyone, right, that we are in a BRSR seasonal employment kind of a situation right now. But that's not the only thing. It's a very, I would say, a very, very mini micro kind of a state of conversation. The view that we are expecting and the outcome that we are expecting is quite significant and quite different and quite large. Before even we get into sort of, telling each other what's happening, how it's happening, it's more important to know what's actually happening in the world, because what we're dealing with right now is risk, and risk which is not static, very dynamic. There is no historic data available with us for these kind of risks. There is no precedential value available. So just to create a club, a conclave, where we have a flexibility of 1 hour to understand each person's world, questions, whatever is there, it's just there on the table like a whiteboard. And with whatever limited intelligence and data each one of us is having, maybe we can throw some light with it. So that's the whole thing, actually, if I painted it properly. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So a very good afternoon to all of you all joining us virtually. We'll have a round of introduction, and I request all of you all to please switch on your camera so that we get to know you and introduce yourself and what you're expecting. And then we'll have the people who are here. We'll have a round of introduction of the people who are present over here, and I hope that you all can join us next time over here. And then we'll have all the people who are present virtually, and thereon we'll go on with the Q&A session. And it is a participatory approach, so we request all of you all to please put across your thought process during the discussion, and also raise the questions that you may have. Shall we start with you?
Yeah, sure, Samgar. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome and season 2 of our sustainability dialogue. It gives me immense pleasure to see that we have some repeated faces, some new faces on this platform, and I really urge and expect that next time we have more of new faces surrounding us. With this, I will not maybe every time enter into and diverge into explaining about or giving an intro about Khaitan Legal, because I think more and more as we speak, we know about the organization. I would like to invest this 1 hour predominantly into our rich conversation, because I think some of really busy people have joined us today in person, investing in their precious time to be here with us in person. Myself, Sangeeta Junjunwala, I lead the corporate advisory, sustainability, data privacy, and regulatory practice in Khaitan Legal. I've been given this opportunity to sort of develop this vertical, not only in our organization, but I think one of its kind and one of its like in the legal industry per se. Because it's like I always tell, that's a jargon for my clients, that it's not one professional's cup of tea. This is a versatile professional phenomena that we will be looking at. And my intent and outcome that I expect from this forum would be to just understand each person's world of sustainability, because I personally believe that maybe any profession, starting from a housewife to any more sophisticated profession in the context we could speak in, has some amount of ESG risks and ESG concepts running. So my whole outcome that I'm looking from this conclave, at least on this today's season, is to understand the world of sustainability. And given we are very focused today in person this season to look at the financial service sector, to at least know from the eminent guests that are present with us, to understand from them the financial world around sustainability. Thank you. So maybe next.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sanjeev Singhal. I'm a retired banker from State Bank of India. Last was involved with infrastructure financing and project financing. So when we look back, sustainability in the form of solar and wind projects that started with us in 2007 or so. We did our first project. So, and sustainability also has been a part of the appraisal process, maybe not so deep rooted and things like that. But yes, that thought has always been there. So I've been there with Ketan DL for about 4 years, 5 years now. So when we thought about starting this sustainability practice, so I tagged along with Sangeeta to see what we can do and how we can do it. So this forum is, as she explained, I think a good forum for exchanging ideas. So maybe once we get to know each other, you want to discuss something, pick up the phone and talk. So I think that is basic because everyone is learning. I don't think there's any expert per se. So that was the idea. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Just to add to Sir's humbleness, he's been the standing pillar in KLA to stand up to this practice with the deep build experience of the sector that he gets of project finance. So he's been a landmark in his own field, and with the experience and every nuance, with every discussion that we get, whether it's an RBI discussion paper, SEBI discussion paper, international standards, white papers, and every day-to-day client conversations. I think like when I started, I said versatile sector, versatile profession. His banking experience is invaluable to us. Just to add to that. Maybe Anjali.
I'm Anjali Tarapur. I've spent 25 years in HDFC Limited, and post the merger, I now head ESG at HDFC Bank. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Abhijit Agarwal, and first, thank you, Arshad, and to Ketan, to Sangeeta, to you, sir, for organizing this. Thanks for having me here. I'm Abhijit from Axis Bank. I look after ESG. It's good to see you again. So you got all the good stakeholders together. So I've been with Axis for about 6.5 years. My career primarily has been in the ESG, corporate sustainability domain. Over the last 3 years, I've also been managing CSR for Axis. So at Axis, the department looks after both the vertical that I lead. On the ESG front, again, there's been a lot of movement in the last few years. You mentioned about BRSR, but look forward to being here and speaking here.
Thank you, thank you. My name is Harsha. I'm leading II CSR and trying to develop a community which is more sustainable. And thank you everyone for joining this session.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vidyadhar Prabhu Desai, and I am the co-founder of LeadCap Ventures. LeadCap Ventures is a research, advisory, and consulting organization, and we work in two domains. One is development research and consulting, and second is commercial research and consulting. In development research, we end up working with clients like World Bank, UN, World Economic Forum. And we've been their regional partners for more than 1.5 decades or so. And in commercial research, we end up working with a lot of multinational organizations, including Google, Nestle, Microsoft. All these organizations, we end up working with them. Apart from this role, I am also the executive director at International Foundation for Sustainable Peace and Development, which is has a consultative status with the UNESCO, UN ECOSOC. And we represent all their programs as far as Asia and India is concerned. So one of the members being India, IFSOD is a primarily European-centric body, and majority of the members being a lot of European countries, and India being a very latent entry into this. We have got just now been helping them out with their activities as far as India is concerned. And some of the programs that we do at IFSOD includes Sustainable Leaders Program, presidential fellowship programs. We do certification programs on sustainability, weekend programs also on this.
Good evening. My name is Chandrasekhar. I'm a senior advisor at Indian Banks Association. This is the apex body for the bankers in India. I'm taking care of the corporate and international banking portfolio within IBA. And recently, we have started this initiative of looking into the ESG activities actually, and post the RBI announcement of the discussion paper on climate risk. This is, like a baby step that we have taken actually, and we are learning, and, along with our members, actually, we are trying to inculcate the, climate risk actually and the risk assessment, risk mitigation and other practices actually into their, credit risk portfolios, credit risk management. So that is the basic idea. We just to confess actually, ours is, quite a beginning actually, and we are learning with all our members actually, and we have been taking the assistance of various practitioners in this regard, and of course some of our member banks are there actually who have advanced further actually, so we are taking their assistance also. Essentially, our aim is to create capacity within our member banks actually for looking at the ESG risk. Nice to be here. Looking forward to a very active. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Shubhuji Nathan. I was working with LTIMindtree before, and I switched to different altogether different sector, that is to promote art, culture, and heritage. So with that connection, I'm doing a PG course with ISACIA. So the main aim is to integrate the culture. And that is where things are missing in our day-to-day life. And at the same time, like I do a lot of traveling across India. I did this one recent project with the industry on industry civilization, basically. It will basically promote those the ancient art and the life. So that is all of it.
Very interesting.
Absolutely. Maybe we can get to our virtual colleagues and guests just to introduce.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sushmita Ghatak, and I'm joining from Kolkata. A few months back, I stepped down as the MD and CEO of ICRA Analytics Limited, which is a subsidiary of ICRA Limited. And now I am advisor to an impact advisory firm in the area of ESG and sustainability. Special interest is in the intersection of climate risk and credit risk, and the development of the green taxonomy in India continues to be an area of interest, and hope to learn from the proceedings. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pritam Kumar Paul. I'm an alumni of IICSR Goa. Currently, I'm an intern in the ESG team of Khaitan Legal Associates. So, looking forward for a valuable session from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Myself Pradipto Dev from Kolkata. I'm an ex-alumni of IICSR, and right now I'm working with the Switch On Foundations. We are basically working on the green energy and solar energy and other parts. So want to make some points from your sides. So thank you for all.
Hello, everyone. I am Archana. I work for Telstra, which is a telecom leader in Australia. So I'm part of the ESG mission at Telstra, wherein we are trying to, recognize and build that customer awareness, how much of carbon emissions comes out of the various activities done in the telecom sector. Even, usage of mobile handset device also results in emissions. So we are trying to, capture emissions at every stage, like all the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions, catering to the telecom service for now, and then maybe, extend it later to the other space as well. So our intention is, to make sure that we are carbon neutral by 2045. So that is the overall strategic goal of our organization, and we are working towards it. And really happy to meet all the delegates here who are in the ESG space. So looking forward to learn more here and implement them. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana.
Hi, I'm Vidita from Hasirudala Innovations. We are a social enterprise providing waste management services in Bangalore and empowering waste pickers. I wanted to understand from the speakers here on what is the approach of corporates towards sustainability, Because as a social enterprise, when we try to apply to accelerators or incubators, to sustainability oriented accelerators by foundations, corporate foundations, what do they look for in terms of SDG alignment, and how do we measure our impact to best make a case for being a powerful social enterprise? Because we already do work, the core business is about sustainability and social impact. So how do we best do it in a way that appeals to corporates, and what is their approach to sustainability? So that's why I'm here to, and look forward to hearing from all of you.
Hello. This is Dr. Paritosh Srivastava. Actually, I have a company in the field of Sustainable Center for Climate Solution, which I have registered last month. And basically, I am working in the field of environmental engineering. And this is a relatively new area for me. But anyway, we are working in that area. I hope this session will help you to understand this topic in more impactful manner.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Archana Pai. I'm from Bangalore, ex-banker from Federal Bank. I ventured out into carbon management and started a startup, which is two verticals. One is cost management and carbon management. When I say carbon management, we provide services right from GHG accounting, carbon footprint audits, preparing a net zero strategy to trading of carbon offsets and carbon credits. That is the vertical that we have started, and we look to gain a lot of information and knowledge from this session today. Thank you so much. Nice to connect with you all.
Yes.
Hi, this is Sumana Brahma. I am representing a company. We are basically a service provider of ESG and helping our clients with ESG, starting from data maintenance, reporting, even with the projects related to ESG awareness building. So trying to pitch in everywhere they are getting stuck. So that is how it is. I am here today. I have already been alumni of IICSR, and I am today here to understand more what exactly is happening in the financial sector. And that is how it is, to gather more knowledge about that. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone out here.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, Harsha. There's a network issue. That's the reason I have a low network, so I can't switch on my camera. Yeah. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Tasim Nalwala, and I would like to thank Harsha and IICSR for giving me the opportunity to attend the ESG conference. I'm working with NGO as consultant in various roles like fundraising, proposal writing, and communication. And I'm here to understand the latest trends in ESG. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. It's okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Amrita.
Go ahead.
I'm an alumni of IICSR, last batch PGP. And currently, I'm interning with Bhumi Foundation in the corporate relations team, assessing social impact. And it's really good to see the person who has taught social impact assessment sitting over there as well. And currently, I am very much interested in learning the integration of ESG into the finance sector and legal frameworks. And especially with the situation that is going on around us, and the risk assessments that is very much required, especially in the social sector and humanitarian needs, which is coming up. So I'm more interested in how corporates will also play a part. So yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lorraine Mogere from Kenya. I work in a bank, and I just registered recently to do the master's in ESG at IICSR. So I'm looking forward to this. So I thought this was a good opportunity for me to learn more and they interact. And since I'm in this financial space, so I'd like to know more and more in regards to ESG and financial institutions in that space. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else would like to introduce? Ishani, Harsh Kumar.
Hello. Hi everyone. I'm Purva and I work in the ESG and sustainability team at Khaitan Legal Associates for 8 months now, and I'm looking forward to join the team for mentoring. The reason I chose to be a part of ESG team at KLA is not because how promising it is, but also because how important it is for especially the legal professionals to be on the same page, as we can see the pace by which ESG sector is moving forward. So yes, it was not possible for me to join you or dive there in the conference room, but I really look forward to the session. We try to be actively participating in this for 3 days.
I think we need to do questions. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining. Nikisha and Vishal, you all did not introduce. What do you do?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nisha. I'm working for Harsha Ma'am as an accountant and sales executive. Working for us. Welcome. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for giving me a chance to introduce myself. My name is Vishal Bengulekar. I am working in accounts department and also handling sales in IICS.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for joining. My first question is, the subject is a very complex subject, as we all know on ESG, including and reportings and all have to be done. So what are the current challenges even to integrate ESG and SDG in the corporates?
Sorry.
We just got started. Would you like to?
Yes, I'm Sanjeev Mathur and I'm principal ESG for Nokia Networks.
Wonderful, thank you. Pleasure to have you.
My goodness. And my apologies for getting late.
I was just throwing the first question. Maybe you would also have some thoughts on that.
Sure.
Although there are a lot of reportings and all being done, what are the major challenges that the banks are facing even to integrate ESG and SDG? And what is the scope of it? Because it's unlimited. So what is the scope that you all are defining, and how are you all ensuring that the integration of the subject is being done? That's before the reporting. So Chandrasekhar sir.
The main challenge in integrating the ESG and SDGs are so there's no clear-cut definitions of what is green. See, the banks are regulated entities, and we require clear-cut regulations in whichever sphere they are working. So when you look at it actually today in India, still we don't have a green taxonomy. And nobody is sure actually as to what is exactly construed as green activity. And see, the extremes are easily identifiable, but the shades that are in between, that is where the challenge occurs. Like for example, if somebody is saying that I'm involved in an activity which helps reduce emission of carbon as the CLG, okay, to what extent it is considered as green? Okay. Unless until the regulation clearly states what are the activities which can be taken as greening activity, and where the banks can involve themselves in these activities, and that will be considered as a performance in respect of greening, only then the banks will get into it. That is the primary challenge. The secondary challenge is actually the lack of knowledge within the banking community. This is a new field that has come into practice. We have been we've been actually trained to look at the risk, actually the credit risk, various operation risks, and other forms of risk. Actually. So that this one is fairly established. Actually. But then the climate risk is something new in a sense. Actually, there is no precedence that is available. Okay, and typically what happens, the banking system, if you look at it, actually, we recruit people who are actually more aligned to commerce and this one. Actually, we as a principal don't recruit people who are experts in other fields. Actually. So this lack of manpower which understands the ESG activities and the greening activities, that is the biggest interest that we have. And third thing is actually, the bank, see, essentially the ESG to succeed is to be a top-down approach. Okay. So what we are looking at is the direction from the boards, to lead the activities. And even the, at the board level, our understanding is that actually even though there's a broad level appreciation is there, but then, intricate knowledge actually and the capability required to guide this activity within the organization is severely lacking. So if you look at it, my capacity building efforts have to start right from the board level before it can percolate down to the operations. Actually, it will be successfully. So that is the major challenge that we are facing. So just to summarize, one is actually this being a new sort of activity. Actually, we don't have a domain knowledge actually on this one. We don't have inherent capabilities that exist within the organization. And we also don't have the sort of leadership that is required to guide this activity within the organization. These are the major things that I can straight away share with you.
Very insightful, sir. Any thoughts from your? Well, at least from a banking perspective, or from a corporate perspective, I would say that there is no better team building exercise that you can do than putting together an ESG report. Not a single person has the full picture together. It's like a puzzle. Each one has a small piece. You could list any function across, and I'm just using a banking example because that's the one I'm most familiar with at this point in time. But if you look at the retail bankers, they now need to be able to see what are the changing customer preferences coming around. If you do not keep pace with what is happening on the ground, you can't get products and services that meet these requirements. It's of a very, very small base. If I would take the example of an EV, yes, it's of a very, very small base, but we are moving towards that direction. If you look at the wholesale bankers, I think more and more banks today are using an assessment of environmental and social as one of the aspects when they do their overall credit assessment. So there was one time where you'd go to a company and say, we want to do an ENS assessment, and they said, it's not part of the regulations. Why are you asking us for more information? Today, I don't think that conversation is completely off the table, but data is at varying levels. So the kind of companies that you interact with, you get the best data out of listed companies, some of them that are private sector companies that may have had investments from overseas which mandated it, but it's going to take time to percolate down. When you talk about our legal teams, I think more and more are building in covenants into their master facility agreements, into their sanctions and approval letters as well. So you need their buy-in. You need the corporate communications to be able to talk about, the strategy of ESG. And as you rightly said, it's a top-down approach because the tone at the top needs to be set. But when you talk about capacity building, the capacity building at a board level is very different because they now need to know what kind of oversight mechanisms they need, rather than needing to know what kind of gases are coming out of fugitive emissions or things. But in the finance space, very clearly, we've always said the biggest challenge is that the finance people don't understand the science and the science people don't understand finance. And we are at a critical juncture where we have to have that bridge to be able to have these two. So everybody over here, I think when we did our introductions, we also said we're all on a learning curve, and that is really true because ESG cuts across the macroeconomic environment, the political environment, the social economic environment, humanity. And therefore, we don't know what to define it, but we know that there is a crisis. The science is telling us that it is a crisis, but we don't really know in terms of a risk modeling. It's a very, very different kind of risk modeling that we've seen in the past. So I think it's wonderful to hear you all have so many different startup ideas, entrepreneurial spirit, consultancy services coming out. And I think we'll have a lot to learn from you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just go back to your question, Akshay, is that you asked about SDG, ESG. It's really a whole forest of words, and you can plug in and you find 5 words and all of them really applicable, right? So I think from a bank's point, incidentally, I happen to be in the ESG space in the banking domain for the last decade. So I've seen this space evolve, and I think many times all of us have been on the same side, trying to understand what the regulator is trying to say and communicate. So I'll touch upon that, but fundamentally, and to I think make sense for it to not stretch myself into all directions, I'd just like to say, I think after so many years in this space, what I'm realizing is that most conversations tend to miss the woods for the trees. So it's immediately everyone starts looking at trying to attack the symptoms and tackling the symptoms. But I think it's the intent that usually gets lost. So now when we talk about regulation, for example, there are reasons why a regulator wants to bring in a certain regulation. So you mentioned about climate risk. It's actually the real clear and present danger, which the regulators clearly told the banking sector that that's what they want to focus on. So I think similarly, when a BISR comes, the intent is again going back to something we all know about transparency. So how do you increase transparency? So why do you want to increase transparency on a BRSR or on emissions, for example, someone mentioned? It's because your stakeholders want to know that. And why do they want to know that? It's because, again, it affects all of us. Someone mentioned about ecosystem. So I would, at least in the role that I play and at Axis, we've been very fortunate to have had the kind of leaders who push this agenda at the highest level. That now we have a standalone ESG committee of the board for the last 3 years. So it's allowed us to really answer all these questions, ask very specific, pointed questions, and also ask very, very, very questions in 35,000 feet kind of questions. Does it really matter what we're doing? So I think all of that really then boils down to just then finding what is material. I think the whole discussion on materiality and this whole it's double materiality, etc. This question that's coming, it really does apply. And it allows us to ask that question that does it matter to me what I'm doing? Like financing, for example. As a bank, for example, I recognize that I have a responsibility to move the needle forward on sustainable development. I have a response as an Indian bank. I naturally have a responsibility towards the bottom of the pyramid. That's why I work in microfinance, for example. I work in renewable energy space, and I try to drive that forward, keeping in mind that I have my responsibility towards my bottom line. I have my responsibility towards investors. So I think the other conversation that leads to is this thought and belief that profitability and sustainability are opposite sides of the spectrum is something that at our level and my personal level, we try to bridge. So then how do you make them speak to each other is the conversation. Again, taking the example of climate risk, for example, when you apply IFC performance standards, for example, on a credit appraisal, yes, your business team will look at it as an added layer of requirement that you put on me. My peer or my competition is not required to do that. Why are you asking me to do an environmental social due diligence? So that's a conversation that we have internally, that why is it needed? I mean, just today there was floods in Manipur. Just today there was a cyclone that just passed by. So the conversation that we have with our business seems to look, this is our customer, this is our portfolio, our branches are there, our employees are there. And that's why it becomes so important to do this. So I mean, that's how internally you win those champions. Then you buy that. And once they are bought, I mean, for the lack of a better word, then they believe in it. And then once they start believing in it, then they're able to drive it. So I just, again, like I gave a great example that making a sustainability report is a very frustrating experience because you have to get everyone on board. You have to justify to them why you want to report it. And as banks, naturally, our risk meters are very, very high. So but it's a very learning experience also. And once it's done, then it is really good. Presents a very nice, beautiful picture also at times.
Great.
Yeah.
Any inputs from anyone?
So for us, I would say, and I start with this, and somehow has some kind of seeding, I would say, from the profession that we come in, is we sniff and we smell a lot of risk around this whole concept, and given in particular, we are talking about the financial sector. Internal discussions every day with Sir and his experience that we share is how do we get to our clients and non-clients who belong to somehow in, whether it be NBFCs, SMEs, MSMEs, be it and, a financial service sector for that, all the insurance companies also, which are the biggest stakeholder in the conversation that we are having, because we find that they are just not willing to write these kind of risks, and so be it for natural business reasons. And like you said, we have to make profitability speak to sustainability, and that's the bridge that you're looking at building. The same kind of tough line conversations we have with our clients, because our clients belong into all dimensions, all sectors, all industries. And like I said, this experience, for us, it's like to get the person, get the sector, know the risk that stands for them. Some are tangible, some are non-tangible, but what we try to get them to life is it's a question of survival. It's only a matter of time that is not clearly visible. But what is happening is with every tick and every talk, what's happening is your survival is getting questioned. So the biggest is like, as we speak, you've grown a little older, so you are more near to death. It's like that. So that kind of a scenario exists. And now whether you want to accelerate that, or whether you want to create a couch or you need to create a shield or a cover around it. Because after doing whatever research and study, we feel that it's not a phenomena that can be completely mitigated, but it's definitely a phenomena which, if understood, with study, and some measures we found around it, which are visible, because currently the experience that we have is we are not able to see. And something that we are not able to see, it's very difficult to even converse, move, transform, do anything about it. To get some realistic measures around it, so clients who are not able to see, or sectors, organizations who are not able to see, are able to see that. And like Sir said, in the top bottom management approach that we need to make that a mandatory boardroom conversation. So our work around advocacy is to get regulators to say that this has to become a mandatory boardroom conversation, because in India, until something is made mandatory, it's very difficult to get down to the chain of verticals. So that's true.
I wanted to add that the whole conversation and the buzz around ESG and things are because that there's a push, and it's a mandatory push to have it done for probably top 100, top 500 companies, right? Nobody's going beyond that. Probably the more SMEs and or MSMEs or even smaller organizations who are deregulated or not unorganized, how we can actually bring those organizations into the pool of ESG, something which we need to also consider doing that.
So one of the thoughts is that you're right, eventually, the way I see it is we will need a repository for our value chain partners. And I'll take you to a simple parallel example. 25 years ago, this country had no credit bureau at all. And initially, there was a time when, I'll just give you the example that HDFC, SBI, Dun & Bradstreet and TransUnion got together. At that point in time, I think SBI hadn't even computerized their records. Most banks said, why should we even share customer data? That is our own data. But today, you don't have a single loan, I think, being disbursed without having that credit bureau. It will become, I think, the way to organize this information will be to eventually have it at a central pool. Initially, maybe the larger companies will have that data where you can have that free flow of that data coming through. But it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But we are trying to move at a much faster pace. And most certainly, if the larger companies are facing struggles, let's not put the conversation off the table that the smaller entities are going to have a much, much tougher time. So we will need to have a little more simplified structures, which may not be perfect, but could evolve over a period of time.
Add something to it. The non-financial data everyone is collecting, whether it is Europe or it is UK or USA or any other. In our place, BRSR is being reported, SEBI independent going on for a couple of years. So some data is flowing into say, not 1,000 companies to start with, but at least 250 companies or something like that. The data is. So SEBI itself can create a repository of data, as Anjin saying, that they can create a repository of data, non-financial data, but it has valuable inputs, maybe not very extensive, on the environment impacting like greenhouse gas emissions, carbon footprints and things like that, wastewater, water and things of that. So I think when we talk about regulation, at the regulatory level also, we need to think of how do we utilize the data which is available to us? How do we make it more decision oriented? So, and this is non-financial data. The trend now is, or what has started happening with the Reserve Bank of India has also come out with a consultation paper on climate-related risks and opportunities for the financial sector. Now that is a big thing, because at the end of the day, whether it is a large corporate or it is a small entity, if I have financed it, then the risk is flowing into the bank. So this MSME, I think this MSME ministry has got a portal where they have some data about MSME registrations and things like that. Supply chains, whether you are a domestic supply chain part or you're part of a global supply chain. EU has already come out with CBAM. So if you are more polluting than your competitor, then you will have, then some consequence will be there. So to my thing, I think we need to, and Mr. Chandrasekhar is from an Apex organization, IBA for the banking sector. I think we all have to start pushing for a faster development within the organization, outside the organization. Sustainability reports, if you see today from banking sector or this thing, we talk about SDG goals and things like that, and how my organization is looking at those SDG goals and working on those SDG goals. But then how to put all that together to understand how it is, what it is doing to the climate, or how it is affecting the climate, or how it is helping us in combating the climate originated risk. See, there's heat waves, that dam that got washed out in Sikkim, 12,000 crores is a loss for that dam. And now we need to bring in insurance also into this discussion, because there will be a time when the reinsurers, insurers will refuse to undertake such risks, which are not understood. Capacity building and appraising. We have been looking at, I've been at project finance, this thing, infrastructure and project, long-term financing, 18 years, 20 years, that kind of a loan. So today, even earlier, 18, 20 years was not visible, but we were looking at stability here, so we can look at that. This. Today, that stability is not there. So maybe you have to look at your appraisal processes, financing processes and things. So I think all of us sitting here, Harsha is just saying, some paper which can be created, circulated, so that things start moving, because there's time is not there. That is my only thing. You have to work faster.
I'm from a different vertical, the telecom domain, ITES, which is the biggest culprit there per se, in terms of generating electricity consumption, greenhouse gas emissions. So that is something which is largely contributed, or the contribution is continuously on the increasing side. So we are taking a lot of initiatives, like as Sat said, that in terms of like one aspect is of the reporting. Second aspect is how that we start improving. So that's improving aspect is something which, and then that is where this point comes up of profitability and sustainability. Because initially there is a lot of cost got incurred, and the way of working. Like we all are comfortable in a particular way of working. Like we started doing about this energy efficiency thing. So that is one of the biggest contributor in terms of the energy consumed by all the equipments which we have. So that energy efficiency, then this coating which we are using. So that tin coating and other things which got into it, that create more, that emission is more from those coating kind of thing. So a lot of such things we have brought in the perspective and start engaging with all over world with all these ESPs. And the response is really encouraging. Like every organization has become responsible. We are realizing that 1.5 degrees centigrade by like while saying it, it has now become 2.5 degrees centigrade. And I think it will be even more the way Delhi was yesterday. So per year, we will see more and more this thing. So everybody get touched upon this with the implication. And people are now start looking into it as an area to look up. And now what we are seeing the changes like many new RFPs which are coming. There they talk about the emission norms also. Like what is the kind of emission, what is the kind of energy efficiency, what your equipments are showing. So that's a sea change from what was there in the past. And then it becomes also a criteria for selection also. So from where we have started to where we are reaching. Second one good thing which has happened in India is that though we talk about that we are late entrant and BRSR is restricted to certain entities. But if you see the kind of compliances which they are asking, their sub-vendor to sub-vendor, up to that level, that emission norms are, that restrictions, compliances, everything will get deposited. It has to be submitted. So that SME, MSME will gradually come into the purview. And once we have a precedent set, that, for example, ITAS Telecom, they have started complying, they are the formats, templates, and inputs are coming in. I think that will gradually start spreading. Now, if I see from the construction point of view, I was for a site visit and there they talked about a lot of green things, recycled material, that concrete blocks are now getting recycled and a lot of things. So across the industry, if I see that it's there, and if on the financing side also these restrictions come up, then I think this entire eco chain or the value chain will have this pressure to have these compliances in place. And implications are very severe, which we all are seeing, like natural calamities are there, temperature is there. So, so a lot of things which are happening and that will, I think, force us to do the corrective actions. Not only in terms of compliances, as well as financing, as well as also the way we work. I think the first and foremost is the holistically we have to say how way we work, that need to be changed. And then we will start seeing it. Start small, but keep on evolving on day-to-day basis, on every year basis. With that reporting thing, it will also get a kind of forcefully that, okay, this is what we have committed, it should be delivered. I think this COPS, what we have committed in 2017. So that will, overall, PSUs are really working fast towards that. So overall, this will bring a very positive change. I'm very like optimistic on this aspect that we will see some sea change in coming year. Few things have already reached to a level where they cannot be reversed. So we have to be like a speed will be, the pace will be a very important thing. Then we have to really act fast.
Thank you so much. So anyone from online would like to comment further?
Yeah, hi, this is Sumana out here. So I just wanted to highlight about the fact out here. I absolutely agree with some of the points which has been taken up right now, that we don't have time right now. We are talking about that things are moving fast, but it is not moving fast enough. That is the scenario. Or I mean, where we are standing, we can see the effect already. However, as far as the industries are concerned, they are doing, a lot is happening. However, it is not enough. That is the point which is very important, and that is the point everybody will have to keep in their mind. And somehow in India, people are at this point in time more concerned about only the reporting part of it. I'm not saying everybody, yes, since it has been made mandatory for some of the organization in the form of BRSR reporting, and people who are already into doing business out of India, they are forced, and also people who are looking for, I mean, international investment, definitely they are also getting into, and looking, people are also looking at their ratings. However, somewhere we are losing the actual reason of all the, why we are doing all these things. That is the most important part, because this climate change, the situation, the environment where we have reached, and the targets that has been set, we are far behind that. As just now it has been mentioned, the target was 1.5 by 2030, but we are already much above that at this point in time. So to really do and reach there, we definitely need to act fast. And one of the main roadblock, even in the reporting as on date, is the lack of correct data at this point in time. That is even from our own experience and also from a lot of people from the industry. Like even to come up with the disclosures in the reporting, you need the right data. And many even bigger organizations do not have the proper data available with them at this point in time. That is definitely one of the major roadblocks. So unless until you even know the figures, you don't know how to control it. So everybody needs to act very fast. Actually, that is the scenario. That is all that I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumana.
Yeah, and I also would like to add, when people speak about profitability and sustainability are rather exclusive, I would say they are interconnected and mutually benefiting, reinforcing. So a business or a bank that prioritizes sustainability can, create value by reducing costs through energy resources, using non-renewable energy, efficiency using, wastage control, and enhancing operational efficiency. One more suggestion is behavior change programs for employees. Analyzing these carbon footprint of employees could also be a game changer. So behavior change programs are very, very important and critical is what I feel.
I agree with Archana out here. Even basic awareness building programs are also very, very important for all the organization, because each and every employee should know about it and why it is being done. So in that case, that initiative will be there from everywhere, not only from top down, it should be at all level actually.
Yes, and analyzing carbon footprinting from individual point of view also, that also could be a parameter to parameter where banks could say that their carbon footprint has decreased because of their employee engagement programs or something of that sort. And banks are one channel. Bank is a very important channel to reduce carbon footprint, because banks are touching the grassroots level businesses and grassroots level individuals. They cover all segments of the society. So once banks enforce this as a mandatory thing, or as proactively when they take this up, it's going to have a huge impact is what I feel.
That's a very strong statement. Thank you so much, Archana. So if I may, yes, of course.
Let me break my point.
Yeah.
Basically, art and the culture. So, it's something about the handlooms versus the power looms. So I was reading one article. So what happening? Like we are like our government is trying to promote its handlooms more, because one thing is happening like through handlooms. We are trying to promote our own culture, because most of the women are involved here, and we also, like every state, every community, they have their own artistic skills. If you see the saris and all those, Maharashtra have different, Gujaratis, they have different. So what is happening? So one thing you are promoting art and culture. Second thing, you are moving back to village from cities. So you're putting less load on that. And this third thing, when you're talking about handlooms, that we are using less of power and all these things, bringing more employment. And if the banks can pitch in, they can finance all these MSMEs to promote. So what happened, like India being a big populated country, we have to create these pockets across India rather than putting everything on one bucket. What we are seeing in Bangalore, where I've seen the graph in last 50 years, the green became red. green cover was totally became red when red means like concrete. So, you have to move out. You have to move out from cities to village. Similarly, the farmings, we have to go back to traditional farming or something. So this is something we need to start now. Reporting, I agree. What are you going to do? What are you trying to justify? I'm going to use less of this thing, few, or we're just trying to do a justification by doing a reporting. Rather than doing a reporting, let's understand the impact and go back to the source. Somewhere we have to start.
That's a very good point, Shubhu. In fact, what we could do, because like I said, this conclave, this season, this club, this is predominantly to get pointers and see what best we could do to contribute from our end, from every sector. So given we are also sort of encouraging on advocacy so that whatever we are trying to achieve, I think you made a very well point. Maybe with the regulator, with our white papers, we could submit as, with the reporting that's coming in, if there are certain recommendations which can fall in alignment with, just making it a lame reporting. If some recommendations that are there that come, and those could be picked up, and gradually that can be made a mandatory part of that, once the footprints are identified, whatever the outcome is identified. I think that's a very valid and very great reason. Consider in our white paper when we submit, so that, we can sort of see this.
This is a much bigger topic like that.
Yes.
And a much smaller part of it is into that definitely. But if we see the fashion and the kind of garments which are getting produced, the kind of growth and decluttering of these clothes, the fashion keep on changing, wardrobes have become much bigger now. So that's a much bigger topic, and I think it calls for a much larger discussion on this topic. Like this is very good, but it's a very niche area to be touched upon. It should be touched. But overall, if you see, I have not seen a garment shop which is not fully loaded with clothes. Anywhere if you see, like you go to our Bandra, this place is flooded with clothes. And any garment shop, if you see, it's full of clothes, and I don't know what we do with, and every cupboard, like every household, every cupboard is full of clothes. I don't know where we are heading to. So that's when we say on this behavioral analysis, I think minimalist is something which we should also bring in. I don't know how it will come or how people will take it. But this calls for a lot of behavioral change, because the kind of dresses and kind of shoes which we have started consuming is very highly populated over year on year, it is getting larger and larger.
We will conduct this industry by industry. Right now, we are putting down on financial and
especially since we are sitting in a legal entity, we know what is really happening on the carbon credit trading scheme. Because we see it gets notified and then there are no rules coming out from there.
No, this is like, what Sir was telling, the lack of knowledge in the banking sector is like you're telling about the bridge between the finance and the science. So it's very important now. We have to come on this side. We say, something, I came for a loan. Okay, suppose, I have a money. So I go and buy a house. Because I'm buying a house, I make sure my house is good. Because I'm putting my same thing bank. If they're putting money somewhere, any project, they have to make sure it's giving some good energy back.
Can I say something? Yeah. No, so I think on the point, what you said about culture, just want to make one statement that because I look after CSR also, I get to travel a lot. Because yesterday I was in Kheda district in Gujarat. Last week I was in Devas district. And I tell you, the mood of the country right now is that we have to develop at breakneck speed. Unfortunately, I think India right now, and this saying this off the top also, we have adopted the Chinese model 30 years ago. Let's build first, we'll clean up later. Right. So whether you talk about the coastal road which I just took, right? I mean, we basically took over the sea again and then built that. That's what the question that's happening across the country. Now that call has been taken strategically that we have to build. Whether it's building a highway through a forest, whether it's putting a tunnel into a mountain, India has to do that. I just want to share that thought and this is a sense I get from across the communities I interact. Women, I met a group of SHGs and they built up a pool of money and they lent to each other. and they're growing. And the kids are going to better school, better colleges, everyone's getting a better job. And consumption again is a fundamental. Which brings you to this question about, I asked this question at another panel discussion that tomorrow is imagine if the world had unlimited capital, will we solve climate change? Suppose all capital was green, we will not be able to do that because banks are not operating in a vacuum. We are ultimately lending to the society to consume and build things. Right? So I think the over financialization of the whole development debate is something that also at our level I want to highlight. That it is not a vacuum in which a financial institution works. Like you said, if a bank lends, for example, I'll give you an example. For 2 years, we've been struggling to get a green home loan product going. SBI has it, but again, SBI has a different mandate and a different mindset. As a private sector bank, I'm trying to get green home loans going. There is no market for it. Now, my business team can they bang their heads all they want. There is no market because no consumer wants to take a home loan because that means they have to pay more interest. They have to take a larger home loan.
And that's the problem. It's a conundrum actually. If you look at it, if you want to promote green activity, okay, then there's a tendency among the consumers that they should be incentivized to adapt that. Okay, so in a sense, actually, to talk in terms of green loans, actually, the person who is going to utilize the green loan expects it to be priced at a lower level than a normal loan. That is the expectation from his side. On the other side of it, actually, when we are sourcing green funds, okay, because it is inherently risky, you see, as against a normal, commercial loan, actually, a green loan is a tinge, risky actually. So the investor actually expects a slightly higher rate of return than a normal loan. So on one hand, we have an higher expectations for return. On the other hand, I have somebody who will consume money when he is given IHA. That conundrum is what we are not able to solve actually. Unlike in matured economies where you have dedicated focus funds which are available, who are willing to forego the profit motive actually to achieve aim of development, green sustainability and everything actually. We don't have that sort of funds operating in India. That is a big challenge. Point number one. Point number two, just to subscribe to what he said actually. See, it's a race against time actually. See, we want to become a developed country, right? Okay, and we have a huge growing population actually, which is below the poverty. Now, the choice for me is I can grow the usual rate of 3%, 4% growth actually, and then we may perhaps become a developed country another 30, 40 years later. That is one choice that is available. Or else we accelerate the growth today actually, we will put the green concerns on the back burner for the moment because the social imperative is more important today than the green goals because see all said and done the philosophy of the country is that people who have burnt all their gases and nothing to created all they have are today coming and preaching us actually green. This is the feeling. I'm not going to say that it is right or wrong actually. This is the feeling. So if you look at the political dispensation today, for them to ensure that there is growth and more people are being brought out of poverty actually into sustainable into economic growth. That seems to be the overriding priority than a green activity. So it's a conundrum. So we'll have to solve it actually, or maybe as we go forward actually when we mature a bit more. When even the masses also come to understand, yes, actually, it is in their own interest also that we have to align ourselves with the green activities. Perhaps at that point in time, I think it will be easier to put the green initiative than what is it today.
I just have a couple of thoughts here. And we are the global destination of the mature economies. They are looking at everyone being at the same plane. This is not the case. For example, on one hand, we are saying we will install 500 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. On the other hand, we are also saying I require 81 gigawatts of new thermal capacity because the requirement is like that. So there is an inherent conflict between what the one part of the world is saying and what is requirement for a country like India. And if you were to go to African countries, their requirement is entirely different. So it's not a level playing field or it's not a level field that we are looking. But at the same time, this this conflict between growth and development and environment, that needs to be resolved. We can't say अभी तो मैं growth ही करूँगा उसके बाद में कभी देखूंगा कि मैं ये environment का कैसे करना है. It has to go hand in hand. It has to go hand in hand simultaneously. Because we are also getting affected. The third thing is, and that is a thought that I have. You all are from the banking sector, he's from IBA. See, in STI, we used to have a project called Project Uptech. I'm talking of 60s. And the purpose was that we will help those industries which are polluting to come out of that, at least to some extent, that pollution related testing. So the sandal making, Coimbatore, we had these
Casting.
Yeah, that's right. So I've supported them in modifying the technology and things like that. So if the banking sector, maybe under IBA, or we can come together and say, okay, we will fund research. See, today money is required for research and development also. Recently, I was reading the solar panels or solar modules. Today, they are largely made out of silicon, and which is not available uniformly in the entire world. China is dominating the market. There is a technology called perovskite. It's a different kind of material. And Roorkee University, I was recently reading, under their incubation, they have developed some method of making this technology available. So if we can work together in the banking sector, in the financial sector to support these kinds of technologies, then it helps in resource management, it helps in having more efficient products, and if we can help with even with this battery storage and things like that, because that is a big thing. I mean, those are the things which will make a huge impact.
The question then comes, if we bring it back to banking, are banks supposed to take the risk of venture debt on technologies that we still don't understand?
So my response to that is people, planet, and profit. You have to balance the three. You're taking risk in any case. HDFC has got a huge loan portfolio. SBI has got even a bigger loan portfolio. We are giving loans and we are incurring losses also. We at one point of time, total banking sector was sitting on about 6 lakh crores of NPAs. So,
but you don't want that repeat cycle happening, right?
This is not an NPA creation testing. See, Reserve Bank of India recently come out with a guideline. Financing of infrastructure, you make a 5% provision. That 5% provision used to be for standard restructured assets. So we are saying you start with this assumption that this is a standard restructured asset, and then gradually it will move downwards or upwards. So I'm only saying that let the banks not do, and you're doing a lot of CSR activity also. Some social impact, some economic impact on the society and things like that. So take out some like CSR. Maybe you can take out 1% of your profits or 0.5% of your profit, pool it together. Finance this kind of ventures. Some will succeed, some will not succeed. That is definitely going to be.
I think, like I said, it's an ecosystem approach. Right? When we work with the cement sector, for example, there's a lot of work happening in cement.
Right.
Iron and steel. Absolutely, I think incubation. I was actually going to suggest CSR has been a great channel that way so far. For the corporate sector to do a lot of things they would not put their balance sheet money in.
So that came through a mandate also. You know, it's not like institutions were not doing it earlier, but with the mandate, the size of the pool definitely increased.
Just to subscribe to see what we did a study on the startups. There is a huge issue that's going up in US. And then this one is actually the same issue coming up. Actually, who used to take the early stage risk? Okay, should the banks be facing this early stage risk? Then it wasn't actually across the committees with the discussions suggested that okay, you will not actually risk your entire working funds. Okay, allocate 1% or 2% of your working funds actually towards this need. I think it is a venture capital investment sort of thing. So you should not be expecting a return or should not be expecting even the return of the capital. Okay, you write it off actually straight away, then invest it into the startups actually, see how it grows. So maybe as said actually, that's what we did in SBI also. The project of tech was nothing but we allocated 1% of our profit actually towards upgrading the technology in certain core sectors where clusters are there. Actually, we try to update the technology there. So that sort of attitude approach can be probably tried actually, especially in ESG.
Right. So when we talk about priority sector and maybe looking at different areas of priority sector, they're saying, what would you rightfully exclude from there? Then you're talking about issues about social versus environment also, or then they'll say over and above 40%, which the banks will again start, it won't be acceptable. So there are too many conflicts happening. Eventually, commercial sense will probably be the big driver.
I agree. The issue is actually, we are too focused on the private sector. In fact, we have to get away from that attitude actually of looking at the private sector. It's not a panacea for everything. Actually. Okay. And then we are more of commercial entities. Okay. So use your commercial judgment actually, whether you can create a value for yourself actually by, by targeting niche product, niche areas actually. Let us try from there actually. And as we gain more experience actually, then we'll understand the broader area much better. And we can replicate it in other sectors actually, or we can scale it up. Either way, we can do it. But then we need to, get our hands dirty.
That's any views on the carbon tax around this table?
So before we go on to that, I would want to conclude on this current problems that we have been discussing. One is defining the terms, as you mentioned, lack of capability, especially at the board level.
Or right across the spectrum, but the board requires a different training vis-a-vis the people, staff. Yeah.
Leadership at ESG.
Leadership at
ESG.
Yeah. One of the very good thoughts I found from you, Anjali, was creating a central pool which could be dispersed thereon to MSMEs and other.
The repository, a repository.
Developing a repository and then showcasing the bridge between profitability and sustainability, which is much required, and not this could be expanded to all the industries. Get realistic measures. And so banks, since you all reach the bottom of the pyramid, and so you all have the largest bonus because you all are funding even the MSMEs or even a normal person who comes at the grassroots level. There could be more challenges which I may have not put across, but when share it with you all can add whatever comes to your mind. There are probable solutions, but Anjali, first is carbon.
No, I'm just asking, just views, because we're drawing because
I will getting into a different perspective. First, I think we should start time now that we start exploring what are India's indigenous emission norms. Currently, we are complying by emission norms which are imposed on us. But now we should also start thinking that why don't we start having a Indian, what we have ISI, and we are talking about a lot of Indian things. So Indian emission norms is one as a possibility. Second, my suggestion is bringing farm sector into that carbon exit, because that has been done, a very niche work has been done in, I think, Kerala, and that need to be extended, and we need to put a countrywide white paper that how we bring that. And that will bring a lot of this gap can be reduced by doing that. And off the line, this, as we said, Google is allowing their employees 20% of their time to do whatever they want to do. If we start doing 2% of employees' time on their own, on the sustainable side, on the governance side, or whatever, on something to do with the ESG, if the employee is giving a free hand to work on that. And second, some flexibility on the CSR spending, because it has become a very copybook style that what they have to do. If there is some kind of flexibility in terms of investing on the sustainability and something like that. That can bring some.
Just to subscribe to your last item, CSR. We have made, some reference to the government actually as to what are the eligible activities.
Right, sir.
The CSR. The government has said actually, they have never said this is eligible or it's not eligible. Okay, and they said actually anything which will provide value to the community, to the society, can be carried out under the CSR activity. That is the response they are given in response to some other reference that we have made. So essentially, there is no definition of the activity under CSR. So it's only up to your imagination, what you can perhaps. But more important than that's actually, I do find actually a lot of money is being invested into CSR activity even today. What are the outcomes? Can we not fix some sort of an outcome first actually and then try to work towards it? Then at least we can measure where we are actually, in which direction we are going.
Again, that will be dictating terms. That's the problem. And that government doesn't want to do that.
No, I'm not talking about the government fixing outcome. As an entity who is indulging in CSR, let me define actually, this is an expected outcome that I have. And then I start working towards it. There's a goal to move towards too.
Absolutely. When you look at CSR, again, about 20 to 25,000 crore every year is what huge amounts are able to get. It's a huge amount. But when you look at India's needs and India's budget, it's 20,000 crore is nothing from an India point of view. So when you travel interiors, you realize that what is needed sometimes, like in the Northeast, for example, Axis Bank is a lot of work, and the needs are very small. They need build us a bus shelter, build us our school is in a bad shape, build us a. So what I'm trying to say is the benchmarks, they're so diverse in terms of need that where all do you put in money? Education, for example, is, in fact, what the MCA numbers show, most of the money goes into education, which is a very good thing. And you realize that, like now India has an NEP. And for example, at Axis, when we speak to certain state governments, Indian schools are not equipped to adopt the NEP. Now we are actually working with our partners to get the schools to be at that stage, to adopt the education policy. It's the same thing with financial inclusion, for example. Simple. There are still lakhs of women and youth who have never used money or never had money into bank account. So I think it takes time. It takes time. I think everything is happening at once in India. I think we get very frustrated because when we see the best things in the world, then we ask ourselves why it's not happening in India. We get frustrated as a society and as a community.
It's not happening, and that also at scale.
At scale.
At scale.
I think at scale becomes more promising question than anything else, because then there is a comparison that we start sitting with and looking at. But I think with India, after having done all the studies with different nations, I think what we forget in hindsight is that we are 133 CR.
Absolutely.
And that is something should not be. So but every measure that we are talking today, I think that is something if we keep in presence, and even as small incentives we keep in, it's a huge number that we would arrive in terms of measure that.
I quote it quite often that on Indian roads you can find a cycle, bullet car, automatic SUV, everything. On telecom side, you can see 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. All four generations of telecom networks are in India. We are one, like, हमारे लिए एक बार investment हो गया, so then it should continue forever. So with large population, like we have smartest of the handsets, and we still have that dabba phones. So that way, our diversity, our population make these challenges much bigger.
Yes.
Not only cycle, you have Belgadi.
Belgadi is also, exactly.
So one question, we're talking about that in the era of the forest, water cut off for some receiver water. Environmentalists came and they want to protect that forest to be cut. So there's a fight going, like one, like government want to be development with the facilities, but there's another thing at forest. So how these challenges going to be handled, and
It is like this, the Forest Act, for example, now has been diluted slightly to be able to take advantage of certain situations. But I feel India has done a fairly good job to protect protected reserve forests. But wherever there's an open land, for example, it's free for all. I mean, and in general, I'm being very frank, that's how generally the whole system seems to think. Whether you look at mangroves, but people are always dumping something other than mangroves to create new land.
Who would have imagined 10 years ago, inside the Sanjay Gandhi National Bank, you will have a metro stay depot coming.
Actually.
But it is a
And the reason that is because again, it's an RA, it's a gray area. It's a part of, it's not technically a part of the national forest, right? So, like you said, again, what is the priority? Now, the need for society is much greater because again, what I'm seeing very honestly is because that's what the community also wants. There's this whole debate, for example, happening in Central America. Like some of the countries, right? I think it was El Salvador saying that give me this money because I have all these rainforests, which I'm not going to exploit. It's the same thing with communities on the ground are saying. Is jungle ka main kya karoon? If my kids are poor, I don't have a school, if I don't have a road. Yeah, that's what's happening, I think, at a lot of places.
I mean, I can say a few years back, this things were easy. But now what is happening, there is a lot of pressure. How this will be like, because now it's getting a very serious point. You're talking environment, carbon footprint and all those things, So how we are going to handle in coming years? Again, we're looking for 2030 as a SDG goals and all. One side we want to bring up the society to a better living standard. Same time, we also want to protect.
That's a great question, Shubhri. We are here to discuss our probable solution and future course of action. I'm sure we all have a lot of problems to discuss over here, and I'm sure even online they have discussed on a lot of problems. There is a hand up.
Hand raised, yeah.
Yes, Sumana. Hi, Sumana.
Yeah, hi. I just maybe you have already spoken about the solution part of it, and there was a lot of discussion happening regarding the funding of projects which end of the day benefit the society and take care of this burning problem of climate change and the effect of it. Somehow we'll definitely have to have a process, I mean, through which funding goes to projects related to innovation and also to the projects which are going to take care of the adaptation because of this change in the climate. And so that is where the funding is minimum worldwide. If you really look at it, the adaptation projects do not get any kind of funding anywhere in the world, because the outcome nobody knows and the surety of an outcome is very low. So there is very little funding which goes into adaptation, and which is the need of the hour, considering that we are already in the process of that changed climate, and there is a lot of natural calamity, the increase in the natural calamity that we are already observing in India and all over the world. So these are the two areas where definitely funds needs to go in. One is innovation and second is adaptation of this change. Now, how, in which way, while I do understand the fact if the banks and all financial institutions will highlight the fact that they do need to take care of their own sustenance and also their own profit at that point in time. So how that fund and from where it is going to come, that is a very big question. And there are a lot of ways in which funds are coming into these projects, but that is not, once again, that is not enough. So that is one of the area where funds need to come in to handle these burning issues as fast as possible. And also to take care of the situation which we see in India today. Like, yes, lot needs to be done, but then the question of development also comes into picture. We cannot just hold back everything looking at the green. So how do we solve that?
Thank you so much, Sumana, for raising the question. My point was probable solutions. Yes, we have covered some of them. For example, having an Indian emission norm and associate or engaging in more employee engagement. but any technologically adept solutions that you all think would be more helpful, which are more scalable also, because you all are working in this space directly. So how can we integrate technology in the system and make it scalable to solve the ground level challenges that we have discussed today?
You get the terms now. We have circular economy. We are talking about recyclability. So we have the terms here, but how much we achieve on ground that compliance piece? Like recyclability is that it can be for anything like equipment can be recycled, refurbished. That has already started happening. So that's one area where we have started progressing. But to have greater success on this is something which we need to look upon, and how these can be financed, that can be encouraged. That's one point which I can see as a solution.
What we have to look at is an industrial scale. The problem with India is actually that we have activities going on at a microcosm. None of them are actually expanded on industrial scale. A country of this size, actually, diversity, and so much of consumption happening, producing so much of waste. We are going to have a rack picker picking up the bottles and then depositing some place. That may address the issue very in a limited way. But then if you are able to develop this actually as a movement actually and then scale it up to an industrial scale, that is why it is going to address our problems. So the challenge that I see in all the areas is actually how we are going to scale it up. Scaling is the largest issue that we are facing.
We had these at public places, these plastic bottle can be crushed. So there is a technology available to do that, but we are not able to put it on a mass scale, and those which have been installed, that is also very strong. Like there were few machines which were put it on railway stations and other places. Now I am not seeing them. So
Why do you think that is the situation?
one, there is no incentive, so it's easier for me to put it into dustbin than to walk for 100 meters or some 50 steps, put it into that machine. That could be a reason that I don't have any incentive. Like if I deposit 2 bottles, I will get 1 rupee. That will incentivize.
There is no incentive.
There is no incentive for the, that could be a reason. I'm not very.
Monetary incentives.
Monetary, then 1 rupee, 2 rupees they give, but who cares about that? Scanning that QR code.
We have technology available to do few things, like then we start talking about that we can make these paper blocks from plastic. Nitin Gadkari has talked a lot about it. So there are some possibilities which we are not able to take up on a mass scale. Eco-based, lot of things are there.
The attitude should change. Like people should get concerned. Ultimately, they have to feel it is their problem too. Today, the whole problem is actually I don't feel it is my problem. Ecology is not my problem. That is the attitude.
Also, what happens is one is like what Sir said, that it's ecology is not my problem. And also when you're not able to monetize something, it's very difficult to sort of get it to an individual level or on a small scale.
Yes.
So unless those kind of tangible benefits are available, and especially in a country like us where the below the poverty line is the ratio, the number, the percentage that we have is huge. So then that becomes a challenge. So probably something to look on that side, like if I have to draw a corollary, which is very different from something, and it's a very sensitive issue though, but now given it's there all over, even before having the Citizenship Act, we had all of this going around in POK and everything, right? But it was everything actually, if you really see, it was related to individuals and a certain line of people it was, right? But unless you get that segment, feel that this is also your problem and this is also, you are the most important critical element and the most critical part of the conversation or the dialogue that's going on, it becomes slightly difficult. So probably we have to look at maybe aiming that segment, if you really see when agriculture was an issue, and we knew that that's the backbone of our economy, it's the pillar, it's the most important key element in GDP. We all started focusing, okay, how do we sort of reach that sector? Banks started working towards it, MSME started working, NBFCs focused, investors started focusing on that sector. Today, we have everything agrotech. In India, to have everything agrotech, not everything, most of the things agrotech, it's a huge achievement, I would say that, it's a huge achievement. Today, most of our startups, MSMEs, and for those reasons, even unicorns, which global investors are aspiring to, have become an agrotech platform. So maybe those are the kind of solutions.
So from what I derive is incentivization to all the stakeholders to do good is one of the
At
primary.
least awareness from the stakeholders, as to they benefit from it. Today, that awareness is completely lacking. They don't feel it's mine. That ownership is lacking. I think that concept of ownership in stakeholders, which actually is, the kind of people that we are looking at, is very important.
So do you think when we are also talking about the green finance and as we mentioned about the housing loan, the green housing loan, which people are not buying because the interest rate is more. So do you think if because the demand is less from the stakeholders' perspective
Because of high rate of interest.
Yeah, so if there could be certain kind of subsidies being given, because even today, if I go.
Let us not go that route. I tell you.
Right now, but no one.
I tell you what happened. I tell you what happened. The
Yes,
moment
sir.
you drop the subsidies, it just start. See, that is not, maybe to initially build up the momentum, subsidies may be helpful, but that cannot be a sustained model. Subsidy model is not a sustainable model. Okay, because it's a cost involved in it. Okay. See, more than that, actually, I would say, let us try and educate people.
Yes, okay.
That is a long-term need. That will be a sustainable sort of goal, actually, that you have. And people feel, yes, it is my problem, it's going to be my problem, and I will have to own it. If we are able to create that sort of vibe in the stakeholders, then probably that will be helpful in carrying this movement forward, and that will be sustainable for the long term also.
Yeah, apart from that, if I'm investing more in the green housing project, then my data goes to you and you can give me certain kind of benefits as a bank in other aspects apart from just that. And
So
I
tell
don't
me,
have-
does a builder lower their square footage, the cost per square foot for a dream home? Right, what's the three lower rules of real estate at this location? That doesn't change, but the expectation on a bank again to lower profitability, that's where I think the kind of the dichotomy emerges.
No, in fact, actually, I can just subscribe to what he says. I've been issue in the whole started about ESG. Okay. A huge question was raised by the banking sector that are they the only torchbearers for this? Should they bear the entire load on their shoulders? Like everywhere there's a demand that the cost of fund should be lowered. You should offer at a lower rate. Actually, you should give incentive and things like that. Everything is revolving on financial sector. Financial sector alone cannot carry the burden of trading. It's just not possible. It is the whole society that should come together, the entire ecosystem should come together, and financial sector can perform their part of it actually effectively. No doubt about that. But then if we expect the entire burden of greening to be carried on the shoulders of financial sector, it's not going to happen.
Since the catch-22 situation, as a depositor, I want higher rate of interest on my deposit. As a borrower, I want a lower rate of interest. Borrowing, so there is no this thing there. So unless and until we can arrive at, you're talking about financial incentives, which is pulling the people towards that particular thing. Other this thing is push, you make it mandatory. Delhi, that minister Atishi, I think she has been fined 2,000 rupees for using water which was not meant for being used for water or something.
Actually, that's what we have been advocating to government also. That all sort of efforts should be made. Like it's one side is the supply side, other one is the create demand side actually. Mandate actually purchasing from green sources. That is another activity. Look at non-monetary incentives actually. That's another way of doing things. So all efforts should be made actually, and simultaneously made. They should be pulling it.
No, I have a different tangent also to this is about the question I ask is that India has the necessary laws, for example, say on water waste. We have the necessary laws in place for stack emissions, for example. We have not. But why are we still dirty? Why are our water bodies still dirty? So I think the enforcement that is lacking is number one thing. So the question, because the question comes out from the fact, do we need more rules? Do we need more laws? I don't think at present India needs more laws. What it needs is good enforcement. I think that the whole debate between the PSUs, the private sector, public sector has been around this. That when a private sector lends, for example, in a private bank, they have a completely different approach to certain thing. And so similarly with regulation. So there are rules that you don't dump your waste, but it still happens, right? So it's an ecosystem. Yeah, if the government does its job well, if the whole system works, then it's a win for all. It's only one, and that's the whole question about. Again, that's what the third world is saying at a much grander scale with the first world. That why is it only my job now to not develop, right? When you all have already done it for 200 years.
Yes. No, in fact, actually, she was talking about the carbon border adjustment mechanism. You just think, typically what's happening. The West, which was, indulging in, rank industrialization, they created all the emission sources. Okay. They benefited by that. They increased their capital. Okay. Now what they did was cleverly, they passed on all the manufacturing activities on the developing country. Now, who is accused of polluting? It is the developing countries, not the developed countries.
Building for them.
And the entire product is being exported to the Western countries. Their consumption has not come down. They are consuming. And they are the source of all this pollution. But they are sitting there and preaching the developing economies actually about the virtues of sustainability, environment, and other things. And on top of it, they are going to impose a CBM on you, saying that you are a polluter, and because of you, the world is getting. And yet they buy your own products. There's a dichotomy.
I agree with you. Any insights from all our online participants? All right. In that case, any final words? We are all close.
I just request with this thing, I think like we started with, this is more to understand each person's world, each sector's view. So at least, like when we are talking, we are sitting here and talking that, we need to create a sense of ownership at individual level, at mass level. I think the same applies to us. And even what we did today is a small step towards that ownership, that awareness, because I think even as whatever state in which we are educated, highly educated, professional, non-professional, different profession, I think even each one of us, taking this forward, even this forum that we sort of have started just to sort of expand the conversation. And I think it's a great learning to hear so many pieces of information, like, you feel always that you're so loaded with it. But I think every piece matters. So I would conclude this session with a request is that if with every, because we do it once a month. So with every once a month, each one of us can at least invest 1 hour of it, because it's not more. We just stick to 1.30 because that's very critical. I think we'll have some more thoughts. We have experts, we have industry experts, veterans, we have sector specialists with us. Maybe we will have made that reach that our voice goes to the right people, whether it be the government, whether it be the regulator, or whether it be the mass that we are talking about. Because like we said that we should not expect everything from the banks, we should not expect everything from the government, we should not expect everything from the regulator. I think we can expect a lot more from us as well. So that's. And I really want to thank each one of you who's made it in person, because it's a huge investment of time in Bombay, and definitely to our audience who made it time to be there, listening to us on the screen and participating. Thank you, and Harita especially. Thanks so much to take this lead, to take this effort, getting everyone at the same time. Thanks.
It's a pleasure. We have a small moment to give to the guests.
It's home, right? Tomorrow the secretary revenue comes.
Oh,
The transaction, Oh. Like, yeah. My request is actually, the second hour is, all of us are in a forum actually. I am as much gaining with knowledge and also like the insight from others like me. So I request you to reconsider if you can, please. I value,
Next time.
but.
Next time.
Okay, let's not make it formal. Let's make it formal.
Yes, next time we won't make it formal,
Sure.
we'll keep it informal. But thank you for joining us. It
Pleasure,
was-
pleasure. As I told you, I really, mean it actually as much as whatever little coming from me. I'm also learning a lot of things from all of you. So it's a two-way process. It's not a single-way process.
Thank you so much.
But really want to thank each one of you for making time. And our request would be, we would continue this on month, and we would try to stick to some timeline so that we give you enough notice everyone can do it. And we'll keep one venue so that it's very comfortable, very convenient for everyone. So I think if every one of us can make this little time and whatever best we could, that would be great, because your insights are very, very valuable.
As a next step, we'll draft a white paper, we'll share it with you all. I'm sure we may be missing certain points, or if it comes to you later, please do add on. We'll circulate it to some regulators and stakeholders that we know of in the state and at the central.
Because the whole idea is.
Getting somebody from SEBI will be a good thing on the BRSR, if we can get some insight. That will be a good discussion as per availability.
Maybe we'll invite next.
Yes, and what we will also do is as we expand, given though they are regulators and we have certain common autonomous body join us, we can have them to speak with us to get some more insight as to where they are. Because see, right now the state, for everyone, including regulators and government, everyone is seeing as to what the way forward is. So to make them also comfortable and be part of the work that we are creating, we would create a more common platform rather than making it like a private one, so that they are very comfortable coming and joining us in our deliberation, our discussion, and showing some insights as to what is their point of view, which becomes more pertinent and valuable for us going forward.
You can count me, I'm a PhD scholar on ESG. For any kind of voluntary work on this.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate.